I'm Jeric Nunez, and this is News Now. The controversial 1904 St. Louis World's Fair is resurfacing amid recent journalistic and academic discourses on indigenous people and cultural appropriation, citing the Igorots were exploited and victims of racism. Here's the report. Dubbed as the greatest fair ever held, the 1904's Louisiana Purchase Exposition draws over 20 million tourist visitors across the globe with the intention to commemorate the Louisiana Purchase from its French former occupant. On massive 1,200 acres of land exhibit, over 50 participating countries across the globe showcasing the American in the world's achievements in industry, technology, and culture. It was an opportunity to foster international relations and promote trade. One of the participating countries on the fair was the Philippines, that was then on the Spanish-American post-war. Thousands of Filipinos from across the archipelago were sent forth to the United States to take part of the so-called human zoo, including diverse native Filipinos of Negritos, Moros, Visayans, and the Igorots. Igorots flocked many people as they caught the attention of the fair goers. Pity, they were told by the fair organizers to perform dances and daily customs, one of which is slaughtering and eating dogs on daily basis, which in fact a ritual on occasions or celebrations only. People call them savages and barbarics. The story remains with Mea Abea, the descendant of a then 12 years old Antero Cabrera, one of the Bontoc Igorots who participated on the exhibit. On an interview, she told PBS that everything was foolishly deceiving for her grandfather's tribe.
A day for my grandfather in the fair would be waking up, of course, to the requirements of the fair managers. So they had a routine. They were asked to perform dances. They were told to do some dog eating. These are savages. And this is how they look. This is how they live.
The Americans, they just saw them as objects of display in those human zoos.
The Igorots were not blind. My grandfather.
Evidences of the inhuman history of indigenous peoples caught the attention of today's journalists. On August 2023, the Washington Post published an investigative documentary about finding the identity of a Kankanaey Igorot named Maura who died in 1904 due to pneumonia. The investigation revealed that many IFISAB died on board to the US and corpses were exploited. Over 230 human brains were collected by anthropologists for the so-called racial brain collection that were used to study to prove that white people is dominant above any race. On an interview of ABS-CBN News from one of the producers of the Washington Post investigative documentary, The Search for Maura, Filipino journalist Regine Cabato said that this part of history has not told at schools, citing that it is an important part of Filipino history to remember.
That's why it was really important for us to tell this story in Filipino. I mean, tayong mga Filipino, Karen, did you even learn about the World Fair when you were in school? Diba? We don't,
not at all.
Diba? We don't.
Not at all. In fact, yung the fact that the Filipinos were shown off as attraction was not even taught in school. It was unheard of. We would often think it was the Africans, right, that were brought to the United States, but we never thought Filipinos.
There are laws in the Philippines that mandates the inclusion of IP awareness on educational curriculums. The Republic Act number 10908 or the Integrated History Act. This law mandates the integration of the Filipino Muslim in indigenous people's history, culture, and identity in the study of Philippine history in both basic and higher education.
important that we integrate the study of indigenous people sa ating curriculum in order to correct these misconceptions, di ba? To correct these misconceptions na napakarami talaga. Okay? Kahit whenever I ask my students, what do you think about our indigenous people, di ba? May mga sumasagot na pag sinabi mong IP, what they can think of are terrorists, di ba? Porket nasa bundok, akala mga NPA, di ba? May iba ang tingin sa mga IP natin, hindi kalahi ng mga Pilipino, di ba? Iba daw yung lahing pinagmulan ng mga indigenous people. Pag sinabing IP, ang tingin nila, isa lang yung itsura ng mga IP, mga may itim, mga kulot yung mga buhok, diba? So marami tayong mga maling pananaw patungkol sa ating mga IPs. So by integrating the study of indigenous people in our curriculum, we can correct those misconceptions which can help lessen discrimination towards them.
Aside from incorporating the IP education on the curriculums, Andal said that journalism drives social reforms and breaking stereotypes.
It's a very powerful tool. No, journalism is a very powerful tool for advocacy. At the same time, social reforms, di ba? So kapag ginamit natin yung journalism in a way that we can raise awareness towards people, okay? At the same time, by raising awareness, we can spark conversations, which is very important. We can spark conversations, we can spark dialogues, di ba? And those dialogues can help create, okay, at the same time change several policies, okay, for the improvement of the lives of our indigenous people. Okay? Journalism or media fosters a deeper understanding, at the same time empathy towards our indigenous communities. Kasi media, kapag pinurtray ng tama yung ating mga IP, okay, they can bridge the gap.
There are laws that protects the IPs in the Philippines, one of which is the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act or the IPRA law. Some of its provisions is the legal and consensus process of cultural appropriation. However, it only passed into law 93 years later prior of the St. Louis World's Fair.
Journalism and academia are both powerful institutions with the ability to educate the people of our history. By digging deep and telling the stories, they help ensure that history does not repeat itself. I'm Jeric Nunez reporting in Naga City.